But if you
Yeah,
want to call the meeting to order, and we'll do roll call and.
Okay, I guess we do the roll call. See, who does that?
I've got Sefton Boyers here, Daniel Ring, David Hickey, Adrian Byram, Mark Neiman, Alan Smith, and I've got Jeff Matheson, Todd Atterburn. Amanda's not here. And I don't know who you are.
I'm Mary Hurst.
Mary Hurst.
She's part of, she's a board member,
Oh, okay,
RWC board member, sorry.
got it.
I don't know, is anyone else on Zoom attending?
Not that I see, there's no one on Zoom.
Okay, right. Given the, I got a deal with approval of report, I think that's the minutes. And after the discussion, yeah, the minutes are acceptable.
That means we just usually say, anyone have any additional changes?
Oh, did anybody else have any?
If not, then you say, okay, they're approved.
Okay, so it's approved.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate this as we go. There's nothing on the member forum that I gather.
Nobody here.
Nobody.
Nobody here and nobody online.
Okay. Any announcements?
No announcements.
NetSuite project update.
Yeah, so, yeah, just a couple things. I mean, I think we, as you've seen, we turned the corner on the financials and the balance sheets, and we're moving forward with just continue to enhance that for, both for RWC and RPM, so I feel, I'm finally happy to be moving into 26, and I'll probably be one of the top, happy to see 25 and all the implementation we're kind of.
It worked okay for that last quarter?
Huh?
Everything worked okay for the last quarter?
Yeah. I mean, I think now it's gonna be kind of exciting time, working with Dan and stuff and everyone on the and Adrian and just creating, the KPIs and being able to, we talked about highlighting variances. And so now we have the data to be able to do that. So I think 26 will be a good year just to continue to explore our, all the effort and energy we put into building NetSuite to finally get what we need out of it.
Are you gonna publish preliminary
As soon
December
as soon as I
statements?
can.
Yeah,
As soon as I can.
before the audit, you're gonna publish
Oh,
some
yeah,
type of
yeah.
preliminary. Would we expect to see them in the
Yep.
January finance committee meeting? Perfect, thank you.
I mean, there'll still be accruals and
I
stuff
got
we're
it,
going
that's
through.
why they'll have a big preliminary on it.
Yeah, big. Okay.
Subject to change, will change, absolutely.
Yeah, so also just so everyone knows, we did implement the last piece of, we call it NetSuite, but it's the NetSuite module that's for the field service management is what it's called. So it is the work order service desk. It's all the work order detail and all that stuff. So we implemented that and turned that on October 1st, knowing there would be some kinks we needed to work out and staff training and stuff like that. So we'll still see some refinement on the mutual board package in terms of the work order reports and stuff like that. But we're at the place right now where Julie in purchasing, we're doing inventory. She starts inventory tomorrow. So, I mean, it will be business as usual. And we're still gonna have a lot more on our plate this year. I'm already feeling the pressure, but I think we're gonna be in a pretty good place. I mean, I'm excited for the reporting we're gonna have this year and being back on time and in sync with everything. So that's all really good news. So, and we'll also be doing a recap on NetSuite spending coming up here for the board and exactly where we're at on all that. So in terms of what's been capitalized on the balance sheet, so there'll be a more detailed accounting on once we get all the final invoices in for December. So we've been going along with it. So obviously we can share that with this committee as well. Yes.
We'll be able to sort of call a halt to put a bottom line underneath.
Yeah, I think so. I
as we
think
transition, and then everything we're doing this year with
Vermont systems
Vermont, et cetera, is really a different.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. I want to put like all the capitalization on the actual NetSuite, including FSM, right? FSM will have some implementation, fees that still go to the balance sheet. But we will do that, Adrian, is my intention as well. So we can then look at some of the expenditures for Vermont systems, some of the other stuff that's coming is kind of right? I would like to close out NetSuite in terms of just
Yeah.
moving it to now just the subscription.
Vermont Systems was the third
It's
party.
the, yeah, it's a,
NetSuite company.
it's not, it is the kind of the
Recreation
recreation
management.
community reservation, taking over like, you can speak to it more than I can.
Yeah, it'll be on kind of the community services side of the house that does our fitness center, golf, reservations, room reservations, ticketing, all of that sort of stuff.
How's that tied to NetSuite, or is
Well,
it?
the beauty of it is that
Integrated?
it can integrate,
Got it.
which we weren't able to do before at all. And
It
so.
was two completely
Yeah, so
separate.
now this system.
So export to Excel, import to,
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
So that's- So I think that there's a number of other initiatives probably going forward over the next year or two, where NetSuite enables us to tie in other things through modern systems. And so this is an ongoing process, but it'd be good to keep it separate so that we know we spent this much on NetSuite, we're spending this much on.
And really, other than a few trickle-in invoices on implementation for SFM piece, the Workday was super clean implementation, right? Which I include in NetSuite, which is the budgeting software, and those of you, haven't seen it, but certainly we use it for the whole budgeting process this year. So all those implementation costs are done and we're pretty minimum. We're gonna have pretty much all the NetSuite stuff is now done. We had to go out and analyze a little bit of some of our licenses where we needed to get a couple more licenses, especially as we look at how we potentially roll out view access on both of those systems. But really, we're pretty much done with that. So cut that off, like you said, Adrian, and move forward. Yeah. But 25 was a big year. Now we just need to get to the point where we can run the obituary on Genarch and put that in the paper. I'm very happy to do that.
It's good to see you smile about it.
Well, it's been a long journey. Feels like it's all I've done since I started here. But it's also a great place for this community to be. I mean, to have these modern tools, it's pretty incredible for everything we're doing, so.
Did you guys bring historical data?
We
When did NetSuite go live?
We own Genarch, I mean, so it's not like, so,
One of 25?
yeah, I brought in trial balance histories from January of 21.
Just general ledger stuff,
Yeah,
not detail.
not the detail, it'd be
ledgers.
unbelievable. So, one of the things for like FSM, now that we're actually have that implemented, we're gonna be building very detailed history going forward on anything that's done to any address or any property, right? So moving forward, we'll have very granular detail that we have access to, and we still own all the Genarch. I joke about killing it. It's still gonna be there. It's just, we're not gonna actually push it out to anyone's, eventually push it out to all the different, laptops and, cut back on how we access it. So really just be for query as needed. And then the other announcement, I know we all know this, but going into this year, we're no longer gonna have any defined benefit plan, right? I mean, that's finally behind us. So we've also moved to a safe harbor plan on our 401k. So that audit will also be cleaner, and some of those exceptions we saw last year are gonna be going away with those high contributions. So, moving forward, this year's just gonna be cleaner in the sense of our normal corporate audit, which will be back on track for April, end of April. So we'll be back on our normal schedule versus the delays we had this last year. Already kind of set up some pre-meetings with McCare for the first part of February to make sure we're on track with all that. So I think that's gonna find ourselves in sync on the right time frame. Same with the mutuals as well. So yeah, and we'll have the 401k audit, which will always happen in the fall, like always. And I think we're gonna be, setting ourselves up then for the internal control audit in 27, so. Longer update you guys just wanted, but.
Okay.
One of the mutuals when we get access to NetSuite.
So we beta tested it with Kim Starr at Third because she had so many projects. It was a good, not that she's not this tech savvy, but as obviously Adrian, his former hat, right? Being able to see across all the projects, and it worked out some security issues. We had to kind of go back and reflect on how the drill down capability worked into how we segregate just like a mutual or a parent-child relationship. And Sherry has been working on it over the holiday with NetSuite. So I think there's a new version going out to Kim here. I have to check with Sherry, but I think next week. And once that's proven and the security works, then it'll just be training and turning it on for all the other mutuals. But we needed to work out versus 4 or 5 people all coming up with the same error messages. We just focused on Kim because, of the 19 projects just made the most sense, because if it works for her, it'll work for, everyone else. So. Yep.
Okay. Any unfinished business?
Well, my only comment would be, do we need to put under unfinished business, the internal control audit 2027 and just say no update at this time, just so we don't lose sight of it?
Been on the agenda, so it won't fall off.
It won't fall off.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but just no update at this time, but know that it's still there.
And does that include going out and getting a current cost estimate for what it would take to do the audit?
Yeah, that includes the whole, everything,
Yeah.
from A to Z, 2027 internal control audit. Internal control audit, whatever you wanna call it.
I mean, this was where we kind of originally had our phase 1 scope and planning.
Yeah,
So I can
I've seen
we've all seen this, but I think we could recircle it around. I mean. So we're, this is the end of 26, right? So we're not talking about January this year, right? So we're kind of, right, to Jeff's point earlier, right now we're not doing a lot of work on it. I can resend this timeline out to everyone. And I think, I don't know if it was Adrian or you or Dan, probably, we might wanna, it might take a little longer to do some of the RFP work. So we might wanna, I don't know if we wanna pull it up at all, but this was how we left it at our last meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so
you will be selecting the firms, or how are the firms?
I think we selected it, I think.
Yeah, so
This
we'll
committee-
develop the RFP, send it out.
You know, figure out
get the-
who to send it to.
We'll get the proposals and this committee can take a look at those and make a recommendation.
Send, how many, you figure send it out to 5 or so?
Yeah,
Okay,
probably 5, 4 to 5.
okay, great.
But I'm happy to reattach this report.
I knew I'd see that.
Yeah, so yeah, it was
It's a long ways out.
Yeah, it is a long ways out,
Yeah,
and it should be.
yeah.
It's not.
We decided that June roughly was the time to do it, because between getting the audits done and then starting the budget process, there
It's
was a
not,
little bit of a hole there, and you're not gonna get a proper RFP response
for something too
today.
far in advance.
too far in advance, so.
And it's not his top priority right now. He's got other things he's gotta deal with that are more important.
I'm already working on audits for this year.
Yeah. I agree. That time makes sense. The timeline makes sense.
Yeah.
So it would be cheaper, like a lot of the CPA firms.
I'm looking for some
Right.
more.
They're looking for summer, fall work
Yeah.
because most of their fiscal year ends are December. So in the spring and early summer, they jack up their rates. And in the summer, when all the CPAs are sitting around twiddling their thumbs, okay, we'll give you a 40% discount or something. So that's a good timing. It's a good,
It is a good time. I agree. Yeah, that's the way. 95% of what you said was true. That's when I was in the public accounting. That's the way you did it.
yeah. We sat around and twiddled our thumbs
We were
all
pretty
summer.
busy. We've stayed busy.
Right, looking for work.
We stayed busy. Okay.
Okay, so I guess the other thing now is the new business, which is the,
Yeah, so I mean, I think it was recommended,
Dwight brought
it up, but I think it's not a bad idea for this audit committee, obviously on our RPM side, which falls under our purview. Certainly our customers audits, this group has not historically been necessarily purview to, that we've had a lot of challenges in the last couple of years, with the timing. There is a Davis Sterling requirement, that is there and hangs out there in terms of when we deliver audits. It's a very, very short compression window. I wish Davis and Sterling had hung out a little longer and realize that having an audit completed in 6 weeks when you actually close accruals and look at all the bills is not a lot of time. That said, we're gonna absolutely hit this year. But what I wanna do is go through where we are in 24 so everyone has a feel for it. Real quick, just so you guys understand the process with the mutuals, there are several components. Some are reviewed, some are actual audits. It starts off with a letter of engagement that needs to be signed. That letter of engagement isn't signed till after the finals from last year issued. We have been with Porter. We have a couple that are with a different firm too, that are with Sloat. Porter has been doing the audits for most of the mutuals for, several years now. I would not change right now this year given what we need to do, but I would personally make a recommendation to this committee that if we're gonna start looking at that, we also look at an audit firm potential change for the mutuals as well. I'm not totally happy with them in terms of their time frame. This isn't all, delays are not all on us, right? We can only
Which
keep-
one of the senior accountants on Porter?
They're all there except for 5 and
Anything that says that Lila,
mm,
okay, so that's
Yeah.
quite a few.
So obviously, we have this last year, we've kind of given responsibility to senior accountants that are directly responsible for certain mutuals, right? So instead of doing functional stuff there, so that way each mutual has a direct contact if they have questions on the actual accounting side in terms of journal entries and stuff like that. So, right now, Amanda, just from my structure, one of Amanda's job obviously is managing all these individuals. And obviously the audit is a piece of that, right? So we also have changing boards that happened a lot too. So changing personnel's on boards too. This is definitely an area where we can have some more standardization in terms of just timing and how things are released and kind of align the process. There are some differences in testing between, the independents, which Leela has a lot of them. Joyce mostly has obviously third, which is very large and time consuming given the new projects. And then you have the co-ops with 1, 2, and 8, which are sitting under Joe because they have their own unique natures with property tax and everything else. But really quick for where we are right now, just so you know where we are on the timing of it. I guess the buck stops with me. Jeroen and I made the decision. So a lot of these, all the ones highlighted in blue are basically just at the printer waiting to go. We had a couple made the decision that the budget process to be on time to get those out. We're already late on the audits. I'm not saying the audits weren't important, but obviously meeting the deadline, getting the new budget books out, and then at the end of the year, getting the coupon books printed. We only have had historically one printer that's ever done this work, Peter, California Printing. You'd think that would be an easy problem to fix, but it really has not, just been in the bandwidth with all certain other printer vendors. So we have been historically relied on one printer for all this to go out because of our member records and the mailing lists and the complexity of how he understands our mailing lists. So everyone in blue is ready to go. We have been waiting for the coupon books to finish, which they are finishing today and tomorrow for 2026. So a little quick, now let's just go through the ones that aren't in blue. Okay, Mutual 1 and Mutual 2. Mutual 1 and 2, they are not currently willing to sign the letter of representation. And so I had a call I have a meeting with Vona this week, treasurer of 2. I talked to Young on 1, and I need to reach out to their counsel because he reached out and actually has their counsel pushing back on it. You guys understand from an audit committee standpoint, letter rep is their legal, it is a requirement they get. It's the CYA to the best of our knowledge. So those two, and obviously the audit firm will not release the final audit until they get the signed letter. They won't send out a new engagement letter until the last one is done. So we are working through those two. Like I said, having a conversation with Young, I'm gonna talk to Dana. There's one area she highlighted, and I need to go circle back to the auditors and see if they'll delete.
Doesn't it actually bring in more work, because now the longer they delay,
Yes,
the auditors are now responsible for everything that occurred from the date
Yes.
until when
Until
they
they
release, so now
yes,
they
just,
look at stuff through picking a date, November 30th, and this doesn't get signed until February 28th, they gotta look at everything between that time too, so it's the vicious circle that if they don't sign.
What
It's a
was the
nightmare.
reason for not signing?
Why aren't they signing?
they read a letter that they see RPM as their property management company, and they, are saying, well, I don't know you gave them everything, right? Can you just sign it, not us? And then we are the board of directors, you've been reviewing the financials, it says to the best of your knowledge. To the best of your knowledge, you've done everything, you've looked at the financial statements. At your level, you are entrusted with us in terms of, providing, providing that data, so you're not gonna lose your house, right? And this is a very standard, as Dan mentioned, this is a process every audit goes through, right? You're gonna get a letter of rep before they issue the final one, so. And this has to do sometimes with just changing people in the boards, and so we're working through those two.
There's no legal or litigation issues
No.
that are holding it up.
No, the only time we get, literally the only time we have any legal hang up, you'll see on 29 is the confirmation from the attorney, right? It's a legal
Right.
confirmation, which we now have.
It's the same one that got the previous year.
Yeah,
This thing's been going on for 8 years.
Same attorney?
Yeah,
Basically.
basically. Same
But-
plaintiff.
but at the same time, that's one of the things that I actually, just between this group, I have had some pretty strong words with my staff. It's like, well, why are you waiting for the legal confirmation? Sometimes those are the hard ones to
Yeah, get them out early.
get them down, just, you can send them out.
Same thing.
You
get
can,
them
same
out.
thing, you can send them out now.
But you get it too early,
Too early and they
it
say we
still
gotta wait.
Still gotta
And
get an
then
update.
Same thing, it
It's
just
a,
kinda
you got
keeps,
a very fine window, it used to drive me nuts as an auditor.
yeah.
Nuts.
Right. The next two there, Joyce emailed today. Everything's been done on those, we're just waiting for the finals. And so when we say we're waiting on the finals, it's not just us, just so you know that. I really do, we do wait in a black hole for their response as well, right? And even though we are their client, we can scream and shout as much as we can. I'm putting as much pressure through the chain as I can to get them all done. But those are, as soon as we have those out, those will be mailed. 29 is all done now. Well, we actually got the confirmation back now, so this actually can be checked, and their draft will be coming out here shortly.
So the mutuals don't arrange for their own audits. You guys arrange for the audits.
Yes.
And then these are 24
Yeah.
fiscal year, so what's the legal deadline on that, or?
Yeah.
April 30th. They're 7 months
Of
overdue.
last year.
April 30th?
But that's been a snowballing effect. So that has been a
3 or 4
snowballing.
months.
Yeah, so that's been a snowballing effect that obviously is a top priority for me to fix and get in compliance. It's certainly nothing, it's just honestly trying to keep this on track when we're implementing. I just don't have the bandwidth to do everything all at once. So however, that doesn't mean it's acceptable. I think it's great that this committee is on board on this and you guys can help share my pain, but also we're gonna get it fixed this year and get back on track with everything. I mean, our goal is never to be late on anything, right?
There are
And get-
consequences.
There is no consequences that are monetarily,
So it's not like a bank loan where if you don't give them audited financials
No,
within
and-
90 days,
and
they call the loan.
yeah, but it's, we look at our new management agreement and, this is a service that the mutuals are paying for, right? They're paying for us to manage this. And so, they deserve to have it managed. right? And have it managed accordingly. So there are certain things that are truly delaying something that can be discussed openly, right, with the mutual. So, I mean, I understand their frustrations, right? I mean, and it should be something that is on time. However, in terms of, you know, how you penalize, there's nothing written in any of the California code in terms of, oh, you miss a month and it's worth $10,000. You're right, there's nothing like that in any kind of performance thing. Is a circular closed loop here, Ross. So it's just, all we can do is just put it on the screen and say, we're all trying to get better and let's fix it, right? I mean,
Is there anything that RWC can put into the management agreement with the mutuals to say, you know, if, I'm just throwing out
In terms
things.
of their performance.
In terms of their performance, to get signed rep letters, to get things back within a reasonable timeline, just throwing something out. I'm just trying to help
You're
them.
right, that can cause a lot of extra money if
Yeah, yeah,
you have to
yeah.
do additional auditing.
What's their money that they're burning if they refuse to sign or part of the delay?
Yeah.
I'm not sure they understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably don't.
I mean, I didn't, you talked just now about some things that I didn't know about even though I was.
Yeah. Vicious circle.
I'm guessing a lot of these doesn't do with the management, signing the management agreement. There are many other issues involved.
I'm sorry, what?
I don't think the mutuals are holding it up in many cases.
Well, if they're not signing the rep letter, they are.
That particular case.
Yeah.
But not in other cases.
No, absolutely not.
Right, right.
yeah, no, I would agree with David. I don't think there's, I mean, there are some that are, and they're the big ones, right? But a lot of them are just, the legal and bank confirmations, they do snowball and they keep pushing it out, but the longer we track them down, there's things we need to do to do a better job on our side in terms of micromanaging the auditor.
Initial delays were definitely not attributed to them not signing the letter. Additional delays were, this is where they are today.
Right. This is the current delay,
Yeah.
not all, how many months behind we are? 8 months.
About a year almost.
But you think about it, coming up with a standardized process and how it actually gets to the board, right? Because we can issue a final audit. Let's use that April 30th timeframe, right? So, but if the April 30th is the timeframe, if you were to say, okay, now if we want to actually go to a board to approve the acceptance of the final audit in an open board meeting, and you have boards to meet quarterly, then you're working to do an executive session. It's like, okay, what does the actual board calendar look like for the audit process, right? And I think that's how you could drive some accountability into like some of the letter rep stuff like that. So we actually kind of, one of the goals is to obviously interject our fiscal calendar into the board calendar, right? And some of the stuff that you and I are working on is how do we, synergize some of that, the board office work to the individual mutuals themselves so we can better coordinate things that are on the financial calendar that actually need not just the 5,500 monthly financial certification, which is now on track, and we've been hitting that every month on time, and we have the vault now. And there'll still be report enhancements to that package and clean up on that package. But what does the budget process look like, the budget meetings? And so we can make sure that we're hitting those goals on a calendar basis. And it definitely goes with the audit. Like where are the letter recommendation or the engagement letters? They should all be signed, right? And so some of this does hold up getting those engagement letters signed. So they will not touch the 25 audit until they actually have an engagement letter, which means they won't be able to do that until they issue the final audit, right? So to Dan's point, there is a little bit of a.
So even though you do the contracting, they still have to sign the engagement letter?
Mhm.
The auditors won't sign an engagement for
Because it's
25
a-
until
it's a-
24 is completely done.
24.
They won't,
Yeah.
they won't. It's just
Sure.
And
SOP.
it's a contract with the board, right? So the board needs to get the amount approved. Right? So.
Is there a legal reason why, and I'm not familiar with mutuals that much, that RWC is not signing or handling this on behalf of the mutuals? In other words, you guys, Todd and Jeff, are the ones that sign the rep letter for RWC, right?
I sign it for RWC, yeah.
But
Why can't we sign it? for
But the board has to
The
approve.
board has to
The
sign it.
board, yeah, the board has to approve it.
Yeah.
And but the actual accounting services is an actual contract, and all contracts are signed by the boards. So there's a difference between like,
Docs for the.
yeah, and there's a difference between the disbursement of funds versus signing off on the contract, right? So there are dollar thresholds in terms of my ability as assistant treasurer of every board. So if an invoice comes in on the final audit that's $2,500 from the operating fund, I technically could sign that and pay that bill, right? Just like a utility bill.
Right.
That's under the right
Certain
thresholds, right? Because cash controls are very important, but the contract itself, like where we're moving into purchase orders and everything else, right? We want to get better and better with our internal control audits, which also mean we should have the board approve the engagement letter for the auditor. We should have the board approve the final report, right? So
Yeah.
that's all out. Just real quick, we can have more, let me just go through the rest of them real quick. We have a pending, some of the stuff is not that, so first and second, we've had those for a little while. Like I said, those are different. We just got in, letter up is pending on 53. That'll be signed tomorrow. And then that will just be, we'll get the finals issued from Porter. 68, if you guys remember or don't remember, or just for your education, like for you, Sefton. If you recall, 68 had a building fund issue where they, had Jeff can speak to the actual, because it was before my time, but there was an actual, fund stabilization issue when they had the mudslide.
Yeah, they had an assessment and they created a fund that they manage expenses out of that. It was covered then by insurance. So then there was some refunding of those resources and the process and accounting for that.
Yeah.
Required some significant.
Yeah. And so we have that was what the delay was on that one. So that's an actual issue that the accountants are working through for 68. That's all done now. We're just waiting on the draft. 70, they have continued testing on the new special assessment that 70 put in place and the accounting those as special assessments and how we recognize the revenue. And so Amanda and I are working with the auditors on that because they're pushing back, basically saying that all that as special assessment revenue can't be recognized and needs to be deferred revenue until the whole project's completed. And so that has not necessarily historically been done. So we're working, so that actually is the only one that I would think is, in my opinion, is valid up there in terms of a true delay. And then our two little ugly stepchildren that decide to have a different fiscal year are on the bottom of this. So their year ends in April, and those are obviously delayed like everyone else, but they're on track with their delay, I guess I could say. So those will be finished up here pretty quick, and then those will absolutely be done on time this year. And then obviously we're going to start with the insurance change this year. We're going to start having conversations to try to get those children back in line with the rest of us.
Why do they have a different fiscal?
They went to a different fiscal year because of the debacle of insurance premiums being unknown, because we bind our contracts historically in the December timeframe, and it's a large portion of the coupon. Jeff could probably speak to maybe the history a little better than me, but basically they switched their fiscal year so they would know their insurance premium.
Okay.
So they could switch back without a big problem now?
Without a,
Well, yes, they can do a short reporting year.
right?
And I
reason I
know
ask is
55 is on board with
I'm
that.
on the 55 budget committee, so I can.
Yeah, I mean, you can do a short
report.
reporting year. It's just standard. I mean, everything it's really difficult, right? I mean, everything in NetSuite, everything in Workday has to have specialized different years set up in their parent-child relationships. And the consolidations of, it's just two little stepchildren out there that are a pain. But we have set the systems up now, so it's not like, it's just They're out there. They're separate from the list because the top list is all calendar year, and those are the two that are April through March fiscal years. And then I think the bigger question for this team, obviously, group is moving forward, how do we standardize this like we do with our regular audits? How is it communicated? How do we, as a committee, stay on top of this as well? So we know that from, my standpoint, this committee is also communicating the truth, right? And it's not just vetted rumors and stuff like that, right? And so some of them are delays that we have to work through, like first and 1 and 2. There is 70 that actually has a true accounting delay that we're dealing with. And the rest of them are just, bandwidth, and there's also, we get out of sync with the auditors too, and they're not very responsive. So it's not just us. There is a lot of delay where we're just waiting for 2 or 3 weeks after we've given them everything they wanted. And crickets are chirping and we're like, where's we've given you everything, where is it?
They've moved on to other
They moved on, I was
projects.
gonna say,
Yeah.
they just moved on to their next
We
audit.
missed our window
You
with
missed your window.
six.
That's exactly right, Jeff. They have you scheduled for this window, and if you
Yep.
don't get it done in this window,
They're moving.
now on to the next job, and they gotta come back and
Yep.
squeeze this in. on the
And you
weekend
said it
and
at the
everything.
beginning, it's a vicious cycle that just is kind of built, it built starting well before Todd arrived. And it is one of those things that we have
But it will be
to
fixed.
fix.
Like,
But are you saying, Todd, next year we'll be done by April 30th?
I'm actually setting up a meeting.
This year.
I mean, if the 25,
Now,
they're not saying they're gonna be done by April 30th.
my plan is to have a draft audit for everybody by the end of April. I'm not promising a final because of the timing and the letters and all other crap that's out of control. But I want to see a draft letter in everyone's hand on April 30th. And then I want to actually get that in front of the boards, wherever their next meeting is, following that after appropriate review time. And any questions, but yes.
You'll have to pick me up off the floor if that happens.
Yeah.
And not just because of where these audits are to think.
Well, excuse, April without 39 and 55, the rest of them.
Yeah, just because of where the other ones are, to say the auditors are gonna get these
Yeah.
done in the next 3.5 months. That would be that'd be a miracle. We'd put you up for sainthood, Todd.
Yeah, I will say one thing in the.
Todd said by April 30th, guaranteed.
Pending any new illnesses on the Hill. No, but I also say that NetSuite has a full year in it now too, right? So there is a lot of advantages in time from the testing and report pulling from NetSuite for last year versus GenArc, right? So even though it's still gonna take a lot of staff time, it's not the same as doing the audits out of GenArc, right? So we are moving into the new NetSuite world, which should come along with some of the efficiencies that we've talked about. It still is not eliminating any bodies. It's just getting the stuff now done on time, but.
I was just wondering from a practical, how these audits work, everything's remote, I'm assuming? The auditors don't actually come
Yeah.
here and then.
Yeah, the physical testing, we have to book out a conference room and then camp out for 2 weeks.
Right, and bring all the nerd bands, right, carry all the nerd bands.
Foot lockers.
Oh, that's right, with all the
And then is
papers.
all the interaction just with you, or do the mutuals, the auditors actually work with the mutuals?
No, they pretty much work with my direct accounting team. So for example, like Joyce on Third, right? She'll provide all the testing that they require, right? All the, the cash recs, all the trial balances, and they'll go through the trial balances. One of the things that this process also needs is depending on the management letter that comes out, right? Where we have noted deficiencies, right? And one of the things that this audit committee should be looking at is, as we summarize some of the results of these audits and where we need to look at our internal control process or where some of their findings were. So we're actually dictating some of the strategy on the, if there are actual. So one of the things, for example, the co-ops, right? So we are going to reinstate the property tax fund. So they have a bank account for property tax, right? And that property tax, but years ago, they stopped actually bringing all the property tax dollars into that fund, right? It's still a closed loop. It's still there. You can account for what comes in and what goes out on property tax. But from an audit standpoint, it should be 100% standalone, right? Every assessment comes in on property tax should go into the property tax bank account, and all repayment that goes out on the April 10th and December 10th should come out of that fund, right? Because it's harder to read. And when we looked at like when I was talking about the consolidated balance sheets, right? You can't have a straight operating account of the balances without adding the property account in. So that's an area that we need to fix. We need to fix that. So this year we're going to bring all the dollars that are related to property tax, re-clean out what needs to be moved in, deposited in, transferred into the property tax funds for the co-op. And then moving forward, we'll use that as just like we do with the assessments that come in now, right? We push them into different places, right? We push them into the reserve bank account. We push them into the RWC piece, and then RPM takes their management fee piece. Well, the three co-ops, that property taxes, their coupon actually has 4 components to it versus others. That piece then goes directly into the property tax fund. That will clean up a lot of the co-op, some of the challenges and time that it takes to do the audits, right? Because it's just not as clean as it should be, right? So those are the things that, are work in progress that we're learning and gonna get better at, right?
How many changes or adjustments typically show up in a mutuals?
Good question.
Not so many adjustments, but there are, I'll use an example with 606. So we had, for example, the certain mutuals categorize the reserve funding, right, as a contracted liability, right? So it sits on the liability line versus an asset line. That's because that money is paid in for deferred maintenance, basically. That it is basically a contract with the resident that's paying into that fund, that is going to be only used for deferred maintenance. So it doesn't sit on the asset, on the equity side, it sits on the liability side. So those kind of classifications are always adjustments because we haven't ever booked them as liabilities. So we need to go through and actually do a much better job in matching, right? We've created a very, very robust chart of account now that still, will still need some work and some nomenclature that came up from the budgeting process this year and how we look at supplies, how we look at some of the other things. But we need to make some of those adjustments so that we go back, just like we're going to go back this year with RWC budget and actually close out and actually have, where do we really finish, right? And have that meeting that's never happened. We need to do the same with once these audits are all done. We need to go back and actually make sure that those adjustments are put in and that the balance sheets and the financials match all the audit adjustments, right? But on a material level. So we need to move, because there are millions of dollars in first that need to go into that contract liability. We just can't keep going every year and just saying, oh, it's just an adjustment from the auditors. It should really fundamentally be up there, and we just have never done that.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that, this is something that doesn't change year to year.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, there should be no adjustments.
There should really be nothing other than,
From
we're
the
dealing
auditor.
with a special assessment for 70 right now, which is kind of a new one-off, but there should be a standard playbook on how we handle special assessments. And if it's tied to SB 326 with the deck repair stuff, right? And how we actually, have, probably behind this, we're probably behind the creating an actual jail for those expenses on the reserve say, so that we know that special assessment money was clearly gone to that one thing, right? Because that special assessment was for that purpose. So therefore, we need to make sure that we account for those dollars coming in, that they're all being expended to that purpose, right? And so that's that issue we're dealing with 70 right now. But yeah, there shouldn't be that many. And the ones that are consistent, we need to, figure out where we make some adjustments,
Because
it's just so we actually.
It should be
close
just
out.
Do we get
at the end of the year,
management
you just press the
letters?
button and it's
Yes.
there, right?
So for each audit, we get a management
Yes.
letter from the auditor saying, hey, guys, you screwed this up, here's how to fix it, or you
Don't
did it,
use those terms.
sorry, you made a mistake here.
Screwed up
You
words.
may want to consider.
Right. Okay, I mean, and those typically,
Yeah.
I mean, I've always used those typically in private business
Yeah,
to make changes.
yeah.
To fix things that, so that the next year, that same management letter comment
Yeah.
doesn't come
And I
up.
think, I mean, I think that'd be a good, I think that would be.
Then you got an issue.
But I think that would not be a bad agenda, item for this committee to
Yeah,
go
look at
through
the
those, to
management
go
letters.
through those. Like not like every mutual by every letter, but to hit the highlights of where are the consistencies on the letters. You know, one of them is, I'll give you an example. One of the letters was, on the bank recs. Well, the bank recs are now done, other than, the brokerage accounts are done, NetSuite processes them, right, versus a manual bank rec. But in 2024, right, they're all manual, right?
Yeah.
And so some of the testing is typical, not typical, but, we had every person that did the bank rec, sign off and approve it. However, some of the auditors were sent all the ones that didn't have those signatures. And so in the letter that says, oh, you didn't have someone signing off on all the bank recs. I'm like, well, we did. They just sent the wrong ones over, right? So that was, but I think that kind of education is probably great for this group. Just so you can, we want audits, and then some of them are reviewed versus full, and we can kind of go through them that list as well. So the first foray into that is for this committee, but I'm happy to, I'm happy it's on this agenda and we can keep working together across all of our audits.
So can we see this schedule updated at our next meeting?
Yeah,
And I guess we should see it
Every
and start every meeting and start doing it for 25 also, just so we can see.
yeah. And I think 25 too is to put together the actual, like a calendar too, kind of like we did with the other one.
Yeah.
To show what the key dates are and milestones, and then, obviously which ones, like this.
And how many
are missed
will-
and why they're being missed.
And how many will already be missed because we don't have the 24 finals? We can't get the engagement letter by this date because we don't have the 24.
Yeah,
We'll be read and have the stuff already.
yeah.
Okay, it is what it is.
Well, and that,
How many
as you
CPA
know, that's the thing, because we'd have to call a specialist, basically executive session to approve the engagement letter and if they're not meeting this month, we don't have them, then it's now February, which then pushed, like you said, it just keeps pushing all that back.
How many?
How many CPA firms are engaged? Just, okay. And
And
is
95% is one firm, quarterly is what.
there a reason we don't use just one firm for all of them?
No, there is no reason.
No, I mean,
It's
okay.
up to the mutual really to approve.
Does the mutuals decide?
They have to approve the contract.
But based on
We
this
bring it,
committee or your guys' recommendation?
But I think that's a good reason why this committee should be involved, because if we want to standardize and create a more efficient property management company, right, it's like the bank accounts. We still have some of those mutuals that use Mechanics Bank, right? And the majority of them are City National. Whether or not I like City National, the fact that if every single mutual went off and had their own bank, right? And I have 150 accounts, 150
Different banks.
NetSuite integrations with those banks and bank recs with all those different, it would be havoc. So to work with, 10 or 12 different audit firms
Yeah.
would be a nightmare. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't advise the mutuals from the audit committee that after a period of time, just like we're gonna do, you might wanna, it's healthy to
At least go out for bid.
go out for bid.
At least to go out for bid.
And
Whether you change or not is a double story, but
Are there firms that specialize in doing this work for?
Sure there are.
For.
yeah, and a lot of them have a big clientele, so they do, right? I would say, obviously, for the deadlines we want to meet this year and where we're going, I mean, this is gonna be a very telling year to see if they can deliver for us as well, right? I mean, there's one thing for the blame on my team, which there's enough to go around. But at the same time, we need to make sure that they're delivering. And if we give them the right time schedule and we give them the information they need, then we need to hold them accountable to that.
Should we be using the same one for RWC as for the mutuals?
I would not,
I think they're different kinds of entities.
totally different.
I mean, the only advantage I can see of that is you get better pricing with higher volume. I mean, even from a CPA firm, right? Not just the calendar timing, but also if you give them $100,000 worth of audit fee versus, 4 different firms, each one getting 25 grand, that gives us a little more leverage, maybe a little more ability to, ask for what we want as opposed to, so, I mean, that's one reason why I would think consolidating them would help.
But I don't know if you want, it could be a conflict, consider conflict of interest. I
If you have the
think you
same-
want to keep them separate.
I would keep those two
I think you want to keep
separate.
those two separate.
But there's a
Besides
lot,
that, I agree.
but there's at the same time, there is overlap and carryover, so when the internal control audit comes in, a lot of it sits over on the side, right?
Oh, yeah.
Without cash, I'm with Dan, we always have like, for me, cash controls are the first and foremost, most important things, right? So, how do we put that at the top of the list? And so there's a lot of carryover, so how we, manage our funds, because really, there is similarity to our capital fund and RWC to the reserve fund on a mutual in some ways, right? You can make that correlation sort of, right? Which is why some of that, we moved some of that stuff to the trust this year that was being put in the operating account, right? So there is but some of those controls should all be the same, right? So
Okay.
it's gonna be a good year for this committee. And I want to pick Dan up off the ground on April 30th.
Okay. Are we down to, I think we're down to the next meeting,
Yeah.
Monday, February 9th. That create any problems for anyone?
What was the date?
February the 9th.
I'm not sure I'm gonna have to report anything on February 9th. The schedule we just looked. I mean, I'm happy to meet again.
Yeah, we'll update on the schedule and we can bring back any refinements to the internal control.
Works.
All right, that's it?
Thank you all.
Ready to adjourn?
Yeah.
We'll get you a hammer, so.